Maybe if you don't want to talk, you could just listen.
Alright gang, what is happening? I'm Mal Foster and you are listening to the latest episode of your third favourite above average but infinitely curious podcast, or at least I hope so, Dimed Out. I mean, I hope that it is infinitely curious and it's still your third favourite above average, and I do hope you're still listening. If you haven't been listening for the last couple of episodes and you really cannot be asked going back into those before diving into this one, no worries, I'll catch you up to speed. In uno momento, because first, before we start anything, I've got to go make myself a cup of chai. Let's boil the jug. So lately, I have really gotten into loose leaf. For all of my life, I have been a bagman, and I will still be a bagman. But after a conversation, which seemed to be built upon crossed wires, somebody mistook me for a loose leaf man and brought me in not one, not two, but 3 whole bags of loose leaf tea. So I thought I'll give it a try. And I think I'm slowly but surely becoming converted. Now, I'm not saying I'm giving up the bag, but I am, digging the loose leaf stuff. I'm making a right pig's ear of this. Let me get my scoop. Much easier. Yeah, nice. Chocolate mint. I'm not a big fan of chai, but I do like this. One thing I'm trying to do as well with the whole loose leaf tea thing is actually smell it, even though I know what it smells like, because I've done it before, I've had it before. It's just nice, it's all part of the ritual, I guess. To bring you up to speed, last year I had a stint in the hospital, and when I left with a diagnosis of MS, multiple sclerosis. I have the relapsing remitting kind, which admittedly, I mean, nobody wants MS, but if you're gonna have it, the relapsing remitting variety is the better version to have. Admittedly, I was shooketh with this. It was just completely out of nowhere, and I truly did not know what my future was going to look like. You know, it could be not that bad, it could be that bad and then some times 100. I didn't know. I still don't know, but the path that I have chosen to take gives me a real fighting chance. Through a friend of my wife's, we discovered HSCT, which in a simplified version is stem cell transplantation. If you want to know more about HSCT, then I genuinely do recommend checking out the previous episode. Even more so, I recommend doing your own research, because I am not medically minded, and I am kind of learning as I go, to be honest. But the oversimplified layperson's nutshell explanation of HSCT is you take the person with MS, you basically harvest healthy stem cells from them, from their bone marrow, I believe, refrigerate them, put them on ice, basically obliterate the unhealthy cells with chemotherapy, and then after a little bit of period of cooling off, you then transplant the healthy cells from the refrigerator back into the body of the person, and then they obviously, naturally, organically begin to repopulate and create more healthy cells and rebuild an immune system, because basically the chemo control alt-deletes your immune system and you kind of start from scratch like a baby. So that is what I'm doing. I am pursuing HSCT, and at the end of May 2024 I'll be flying out to Puebla, Mexico to Clinic Ruiz to undergo the treatment. I am there for 4 weeks, and it's going to be 4 weeks of not fun times. It is not going to be a holiday, that's for sure. But life-saving, life-altering, absolutely. Statistically, it is not guaranteed, but I cannot go into this whole process with anything less than 100% certainty it is going to work. So I have to truly, wholeheartedly, sincerely believe this is going to be amazingly successful. And it is. So there we go, that's us, up to speed. The rest of this episode is basically going to consist of, I don't know, it's going to cover my time heading towards the end of May, the thoughts and feelings that I'm having going into the process, the things I'm doing to prepare for the process. Yeah, like much of this season, I really don't have a Scooby-Doo what's in store. Okay, so I have, it's like 93, 92, maybe even 91 days left before I head off to Mexico for the treatment. It's something like that. It's in the low 90s region. It's getting closer. That's for definite. So there is this thing called the patient portal. It's pretty great, and it pretty much does exactly what it says on the tin. It allows me to send messages to Clinica Ruiz. It allows Clinica Ruiz to get in touch with me. It allows me to upload documents that they need. So flight itinerary, for example, or the written reports from the MRI scans I need to have before I head out there. Really great, easy to use, easy access, brilliant. And in the top right-hand corner of the patient portal, there is a little thing that tells you have X amount of days until your arrival. And the very first thing that I recorded for this episode happened to be on the day I checked into the patient portal, and it says you've got 100 days until you arrive. And I thought, this is it. This is the best place to start. And it flicked a switch. It flicked a switch for me to be like, right, going to treat this like a project. 100 days before I'm in Mexico. This is the time to knuckle down, to get myself aligned, to get myself in the best possible shape. Physically, because I had put on some excess weight, mentally and emotionally, across the board. By the time that 100 days gets down to 0, I'm going to be the best version of myself that I possibly can be. I was energized, full of vim and vigor, full of get up and go. And then the next day, or thereabouts, that whole mentality nosedived into the ground. I've been absolutely demotivated. I have just been deflated, would be a better way to put it. And I think it's, I don't know, maybe dealing with the fact that I now have a ticking clock, as it were, and kind of going through the not accepting it period. At around the 100-day mark, when I was making probably bold proclamations about, well, this is it, we're knuckling down, we're doing it, we're motivated, we are energized. All of that was absolute bollocks, pure shite. Alright, so I'm about to go and have a haircut, but not just a normal trim haircut. A lot of it is going. Not all of it, but a significant amount. It's probably going to be the shortest I've had my hair for a few years, and although it's nothing new to me to have it at a short length, it has been a while. The reason I'm doing this is twofold, essentially. Historically speaking, when I've been wobbling all over the tracks and I can't find a sense of consistency or momentum in trying to do something, or I just feel off kilter or unbalanced, or I'm just not to where I want to be with something, whatever it is, I have found that a mental boost can be a haircut. As weird and as silly as that might sound, it's kind of like a physical, tangible reset for me, and it's been successful in the past. So yeah, I'm on the struggle bus at the minute, so I figure a haircut might help me get off. The second reason, the most important of the two, is that my hair is eventually going to fall out. Due to the chemo that comes with the HSCT, it is going to fall out. I am going to be bald as a cue ball at some point. And rather than just go through the whole process of clumps of it falling out and going through what could be quite distressing and upsetting at a time when I'm trying to be as calm as you like, I figured I'd get a jump ahead of the curve and just start to trim my hair down, get used to it being a bit shorter, and then next time I have it trimmed a little bit shorter, and just kind of build a sort of on-ramp for that happening. Because, yeah, just preparation, I guess, is key. Alright, so there you go. Absolute suede head. Weird to the touch and weird like physically and visually, and yeah, weird in all the departments. Strange to be this short again for the first time in what's got to be years. But it feels nice. Having said that, I am still sweating absolute cobs in the car despite having a lot less hair. So I'm going to try and make this pretty quick. Also, there are people drilling and banging and doing all the construction noises behind me. But it's mainly because I'm just getting an absolute sweat on in here. Yeah, I'm pleased with it. They did a great job, as they've always done. It's a place called Hair Designs. Shout out to Hair Designs. I feel like it's definitely the right move to make, because it's jarring, but it's a lot less jarring than, as I mentioned, seeing hair just fall out. Kind of finding big clumps of hair in the shower, having it come off in my hand. I can imagine that is very unsettling, and at a time of great disturbance, I want to minimize or eradicate as many unsettling elements as I can. And this is a sense of power. This is a sense of having control. And I have an issue with control, but it's a good thing to be able to take control of the things that I can take control of, I guess. So yeah, finding little moments of power and reclaiming what I can, and just getting used to adaptation and adjustments, which is the reoccurring theme of this whole shit show. Alright, so I'm going to try, emphasis, big, hard, emboldened, underlined emphasis on try, and make this quick, because I have got an absolute humdinger of a headache. It is absolutely banging right in the center of my head. You know when it just becomes really laser focused and narrow, and it's just like boring right into the middle of your head? Yeah, I've got that going on because I've had a bunch of MRIs done. They have said that I need to have a bunch of MRIs done, and to bring CDs or a USB with the images from the MRIs with me, but prior to me leaving, to send them a written report on those MRIs, basically creating a baseline of sorts, I think, to see where I'm at. And so I've had 3 of them done back to back. I was hoping to get all 4 of them done, but they couldn't schedule all 4, so I've had 3 of them. There wasn't a brain MRI, a thoracic one, I think, a cervical one, I think, and a lumbar one, I'm sure. Lumbar and brain, I'm absolutely 100% positive on. The other 2, not so sure without actually looking at the notes. But I've gone in and I've had them done, and yeah, it was rough going. Obviously, I had MRIs done back last year when I was in hospital and I was first diagnosed with MS. And it was a little bit daunting at first, but it wasn't too bad. Mainly because I had headphones that were piping me through relaxing spa music. And yeah, the whole procedure first time round was okay for what an MRI is. If you're unfamiliar, you basically slid on a trolley into something that's somewhere between a coffin and a sunbed, that the ones that where the lids close on you. If you're claustrophobic, I can see how you would freak out going into an MRI. Even if you're not, it's not very pleasant or comfortable. But as I said, the first go around I had the headphones and the music, and it was okay. I managed all right. This time around, pretty rough, because they didn't have any headphones, and it was just me being slid into the sun coffin, as it were, and just full-on sonic sensory assault. If you are, and I really hope you are, unfamiliar with the whole MRI procedure, for many reasons, but one of them being the noises. They are awful, and they are constant, and they are loud. It is the loudest thing I've ever experienced. And to give you just a tiny example of it, with the volume adjusted so it doesn't just blow your brains and your ears out, here's some MRI noises for you, in case you were wondering. I I was in there for about an hour and a half because they had to do it without contrast and then with contrast. Contrast is basically a dye that they inject into you that brings up the imaging more clearly. Because I was doing it without and with, it took a little bit longer. But yeah, I'm pleased to have got that done. I'm pleased to have my images on CD, which I have in my bag here somewhere. Oh, phew, he says there for a second, wondering where the hell they'd gone. Images on a CD, and then they're going to send me my written reports. So really pleased to have had the MRIs done, and we're several steps closer in terms of preparation. Oh man, Johnny Rattlybags is out in force tonight. It's actually really pleasant sitting out on the porch swing during a thunderstorm. It's ridiculously relaxing, and I don't know why I've never done this before. Now we are under 60 days. It's beginning to loom ever so slightly larger, and I'm not freaking out, but it is becoming more real with each step forward, and I do find myself in a fluctuating mood. I find, and I don't know if this is anything to do with going to Mexico or if this is just me, because this is, you know, something that I've been through before, something I've felt before, something I've exhibited before. But my mood is fluctuating. I'm going from being quite perfectly fine to kind of giddy in a maybe I'm covering of uncertainty and concern way. I've been kind of short, grumpy, unsettled, downright fed up at points. Fed up, pissed off, done in, burnt out. Yeah, just zero time and energy for anything and everything or anyone, and well, not quite everyone, but a lot of people. I was not in a good place. I was in a miserable place, and I was in that miserable place for a while, few weeks. That's why I haven't done one of these entries since. And it's kind of funny that I've chosen to do the next one today. That I've finally been in a place where I'm like, okay, I can sit down and talk again today. Because last time I did one, we had a storm. And now, yeah, it's rough. So we've gone from storm to storm with one of the stormiest periods I've known for many years in between. That's the real storm. It's the weeks between the entries, which I didn't record because I couldn't record. I just had nothing positive to say. I was just angry and dejected and despondent and sad and frustrated and just a lot of things, none of which were good. And truth be told, I think I was reacting like that. I wasn't reacting like that because a specific thing happened. There was no particular event which triggered all of this. There was no, at least from a conscious standpoint, no string of events which had led to that point. I think it had just boiled over. And by it, I mean like my suppressed concerns and worries and even fears about what's going to happen. Because, you know, since I decided I'm doing this, I've been like, yeah, I'm cool, it's fine, you know, it'll be what it is, and then it'll be done. And there is a part of that which is true. And the fact I'm talking about this now, it seems to be getting heavier with the rain. God, are you mad at me? Are you trying to keep me aligned and keep me authentic? I say God, I don't know. Whoever's up there, whatever's up there. Maybe this is your natural way of keeping me on track, or maybe you're pissed off with me. I don't know. But yeah, not in a good place. But in the last, I don't know, in the last week, maybe 10 days, I've kind of turned the corner. And I think maybe because I've kind of just moved through being scared on a subconscious level. I mean, that'll come back, no doubt. But right now, I am actually okay. Right now, I am on a fairly even keel. Although subconsciously, I think it's seeping in different ways. Like, I had a dream earlier this week in which my wife was really mad at me for something, not that I had done, but that I had refused to do. And instead of like just, I don't know, kicking me out or me just leaving for a bit and cooling off, we had this family gathering, which was not as a response to me not doing what I was meant to do or what have you. It was happening anyway. It just coincided with me being stubborn and refusing to do whatever the hell it was I didn't do in the dream. And so instead of, you know, turfing me out, or instead of me heading off somewhere, library or movies or somewhere, coffee shop, I just stayed at home and I didn't participate, and I was there. I was visibly there, but I was just unengaged in anything that was happening. And it was just like this boiling, seething resentment of sorts. And I'm trying to figure out exactly what that means. And I feel like it might be something to do with the fact that we are going to have to not separate our house in two. It's not like that Vince Vaughn, Jennifer Aniston film, The Breakup. How many times do you hear that reference to nowadays? Not many, for good reason. It's not going to be like that, but we are going to have to kind of compartmentalize the house a bit. And I am going to have to disappear from a lot of stuff. Like, I can't be going to social gatherings. Not that I was a massive social butterfly anyway, as you know if you've listened from the start of this season, but I had been interjecting myself into events. I had started to become more social. I had started to get out there more and interact with people more. And even though it might not necessarily be my crowd, I was still forming connections. I was still being more external. And I suppose maybe that dream and the whole stormy mood period I've been through is some sort of low-key apprehension about that. Because the medical stuff, yes, it's going to suck. It's going to be painful. It's going to be nauseating and exhausting. But that's not the thing that really worries me most about this. And again, I say worry, it's not like my head is just racing with these anxious thoughts. I'm not catastrophizing in the way that I might have in a previous part of my life, even not that long ago. But the bit that I have been thinking about more consciously, that has kind of been, I guess, slowly stewing in the background, is the recovery period. Is, 6 months I can't do this, 9 months I can't do that, 12 months and I can't do that, and we'll get into that as we get there and as we move further along down the road. I don't know, it's similar to the pandemic in a way, but bigger. Because when the pandemic struck, I'd been working at Starbucks for about 2 months, and the job, I hated the job. But the fact that I was actually meeting new people, and that I was actually finally not being by myself anymore, is probably the most apt and accurate way to put it. That I enjoyed, and I was trying to latch on to that more than I was the negative aspects of the job. And it kind of feels a little bit like that. I have, in the last year, integrated myself more into a wider sense of the local community, as it were. I'm not plugged into the community, but I am out and about. I am here and there, where I was just really insular before. And so with the recovery thing, that goes. And so it kind of feels like one step forwards, two steps back. And I think that's what I'm processing. At the time of recording this, I think it's exactly 4 weeks to the day until I leave. It'll be 4 weeks tomorrow until I arrive, if I've got my dates right, which I think I have. And that has gone quick. It's gone from 104-5 days from once I registered with the clinic and was green lit to now. And that is 2 months, which has just disappeared in a flash of lightning. And so it's kind of surreal. We're not quite at the holy shit, it's happening stage. I think that's gonna come in like the last 2 weeks, probably the last week. But the net is closing in, as it were. It is, once again, absolutely chucking it down. It feels like every time I get like a solid chunk of time to sit down and do these now, it's pissing down. And it's in the midst of a thunder and lightning storm. I don't know, is that just purely coincidence? Is it Baader Meinhof? Is it some sort of fatalistic symbolism that I'm about to go through a storm, as it were? As of today, I have got 2 weeks exactly until I fly out and arrive in Mexico. 2 weeks to the day. And kind of mixed feelings, going through a bit of processing with that. On one hand, it feels like it has arrived so quickly. On the other hand, it feels like it has really dragged to get to this point. But within that, I suppose there is the anomaly that time has become post-COVID. That strange, misshapen, elastic form that is time and the recognition of events before and after. You know, like when you think about something you did before COVID, it feels like it was way longer, and simultaneously it feels like it was pretty recent. That kind of thing. That strange anomaly that time seems to have become. It was crazy. I heard something about students that are graduating, university students over here, who started in the pandemic and are ending with the recent protests. Like, what a crazy, wild, turbulent bookmark to either side of their journey. That is, yeah, just a wild time of life to have gone through that chapter in their own lives. Anyway, I'm totally digressing. 2 weeks, and I'm going through quite a bit. One hand, as I say, feels like it's taken ages to arrive. On the other hand, it feels like it's got here so fast. And now I'm at a point where I'm getting a little impatient. I'm not nervous. I'm not concerned. I'm by no means undermining what I'm about to go through in terms of the procedure, the hardness of it. I'm sure there's going to be pain. I'm sure there's going to be nausea, discomfort, isolation, loneliness. I'm going to run the gamut when I'm there. I'm not underselling that whatsoever. But I'm at that point where I just want to get on with it and get cracking. Like, the organised part of my mind is just like, let's go. We're getting things in motion, and granted, having another 2 weeks is good to make sure I've got everything on the checklist and that I'm prepared in that sense. But I just wanted to get into it and just kind of treat it like a project almost, weirdly, and just, yeah, get going. This week, I heard a short interview which really kind of snagged my attention. It was with a musician called Jeff Beals. The reason it snagged my attention is because he also has MS, and he was talking about his brain lesions and his MRI scans, and he was talking about his wife's observation of the brain scans. And she noticed that his lesions were lighting up on a part of the brain that I think is called the corpus callosum. It's basically the connecting bridge between left and right brain. And she was just like, yeah, it makes total sense that you have lesions there. And it makes total sense because you have just thrown yourself into music for so long and you just immerse yourself in your work that on a subconscious level it seems almost as if you knew you had to flex that muscle. You had to keep the corpus callosum strong. You had to keep working the part of your brain which connects left and right by doing something like music, which is creative, which has a sort of academic organisational side to it. It really does kind of utilise left and right. So it makes total sense that your flares are there. So hearing this, I decided to look at my own MRI report for the first time, truly, properly, to have a look at where my lesions actually were in my brain and are in my brain. So looking at the report for the first time, I see that my lesions are on the frontal lobe. And not being medically minded whatsoever, I was like, well, I don't know what the frontal lobe does. So, obviously, jump onto Google, have a look, frontal lobe, what does it do? It does a lot of things. One of its main jobs and responsibilities is organisation, cognitive organisation. And I started to think down a similar pathway to Jeff Beals' wife. Maybe I have thrown myself into projects like this podcast or anything that I'm working on in such a heavy fashion because there is a great amount of organisation to it. I'm always making lists. I'm a list maker. I am by nature just an organised person in that sense, especially when I'm working on something. And truthfully, I do think it is much more of my personality and my nature than my brain's behaviour in a subconscious fashion. But it's interesting to think that at some points, maybe, in some cases, in some instances, on some occasions, when I've been working on endeavours like the podcast, when I've been over-planning, over-plotting, over-producing, over-organising, maybe, on some subconscious level, it is my frontal lobe being exercised, as it were. It's flexing that muscle to keep it strong. Again, I think it is much more my personality and nature, but it's made me look at and think about how my brain works more than ever, really. Even when this all occurred, I never really sat down to think about the way that my brain works. I've been looking at how I work as a general whole, but looking at the mechanics of it, like getting under the hood, as it were, and seeing why and how the engine works the way it does, is actually kind of interesting. And at some point, this is a rabbit hole that I think I'm going to dive back into. When looking at the frontal lobe and looking at what it does, its jobs and responsibilities, more stuff kind of makes sense in terms of me having lesions on my frontal lobe. And again, some of, if not most of, or all of this could be down to just my personality and nature, but some of the other responsibilities of the frontal lobe are impulse control, decision making, memory, and emotions. My memory, for a long time, my long-term memory has been terrible. I have scraps and fragments of childhood memories. And it's usually when I have external stimuli, when I see something that I haven't seen for years, that I then remember it. And I'm sure I'm not alone in this at all, because there is only so much storage space in our brain that we have for new and old memories. And so a lot of stuff will get shelved so that we can, have the freshness of recent memories or new memories. But as a whole, my long-term memory is pretty shit. And so I'm wondering if that's an effect of the lesions on my frontal lobe. Again, I don't know because I'm not medically minded, but it's interesting to consider the ways in which this has affected my brain, and that is definitely one thing to consider. Is that the reason why my memory has been as bad as it has been for the last who knows how long? Impulse control. I mean, I've talked way back at the front of this season, and there is an episode coming out about struggling with lots of different things. And one of those things is impulse control, is self-soothing behaviour. And it makes me wonder, is that partly because of the MS, partly because of the lesions? And I'm not like worrying myself and fretting myself about it. It's not that kind of consideration. It's just, am I doing these things because it's in my nature? Or am I doing these things because my frontal lobe has been compromised to some degree? And then that also ties into the emotional side of it. You know, has my depression and anxiety been circumstantial? Has it been inherently within my nature? Or has it been because of the frontal lobe issue? Or is it a mix of all three? And I'm probably never going to get answers to any of these, but it's just interesting to consider. Knowing what part of my brain has been affected and what that is responsible for, it does open up a whole box of queries and questions and things to consider, and it's just, I don't know, just interesting to look at how your brain works and why things have been the way they have been. I'm not going to lose any sleep over this because, as I said, I'm not probably ever going to get any answers to this. But it is interesting to kind of look back at how I've been the last few years at various times and, you know, throw that into consideration. Is it nature? Is it just my inherent personality? Is it a knock-on effect of lesions on the frontal lobe? Just interesting stuff to consider, I guess.
Are you ready to go shopping?
So, as part of my preparations for heading off to Mexico, I thought I would go through a bunch of the stuff that I'm going to be taking with me for my time in Puebla. The first thing in my bag is the first thing that should really be in your bag whenever you're going anywhere. Toothbrush is plural because I did buy quite a few, perhaps too many, which might be a reoccurring theme here. But what's special about these toothbrushes is that they're disposable, and they have got very soft bristles. Don't want the hard bristles because I don't want to be cutting my gums and increasing any risk of bacteria infection. So soft bristle, disposable toothbrushes, check. I also have got some peroxide as well, hydrogen peroxide, because I will be getting rid of my toothbrushes every couple of days, but I'm also going to be cleaning them as well, which is a habit I'm going to be getting into when I get back from Mexico. Once again, to avoid infection. The next item, not my most prideful purchase, but it is a necessary one, is some adult nappies, which is the correct word for diaper. Because there's going to be times, especially when I'm going through the harvesting and the chemo, where I will need to go, but I can't go. So I've just got to go where I'm at, if you get what I mean. Yeah. And with these, I have definitely bought too many. I think there's like 28 disposable nappies that I will never need 28 disposable. Why did I buy so many? The next thing on my list is some lint rollers for when my hair falls out. If it falls out when I'm over there, I can get it off my clothes, etc. And even if I don't use them over there in Mexico, they will always come in handy at home because of how fluffy our cat is. One thing that I saw recommended in many places was hard candy or hard sweets for when you are going through the chemo. You might end up with a bitter, horrible taste in your mouth. So I got myself some gingins because ginger is ace. I also got myself some lemon sherbets, which my wife had never heard of, amazingly. Lemon sherbets, also ace. And yeah, I just absolutely love those. Haven't had them for years, so kind of looking forward to the old lemon sherbets. And we also got some Lifesavers, which is basically like a fruit polo. And I had never heard of them, weirdly enough. But now I find myself not addicted, but just very fond of on a daily basis. The people that I work with got me a really sweet care package full of colouring books and puzzle books and Sudoku books, coloured pencils, a pencil sharpener, all of that stuff to basically keep my mind active, create a healthy, fun distraction. And yeah, it's just really sweet. And obviously, I'm not going to get through all of them when I'm over there, but in the time that I'm spending at home during the recovery period, they'll come very much in handy. Funny thing is, I used to hate crossword puzzles until I actually went into hospital and managed to do my very first one. And then following that, I was like, yes, I can actually do these. So it's good stuff for keeping the brain nimble and active. I'm also going to be taking some cosmetic stuff. I've got some fragrance-free soap. Difficult for me to say with the old F's going on there, but fragrance-free soap, that's going in my bag. Keep myself clean and not have all the scents. Also got some wet ones, some hand sanitizer, antibacterial stuff as well for obvious reasons. I've got a tub, not a tub, like it's a little bottle. A tub makes it sound huge. A little bottle of melatonin to help me sleep on those nights, which I'm sure I'm going to have a few where I just cannot get to sleep. I've also got an electric blanket. You know the drill, you plug it in, it warms up, and in terms of the reason I'm taking an electric blanket is because I've read and I've been told that chemo can make you feel very achy, and I'm going to take that to alleviate any aches and pains in the bones and other areas. I've also got myself a pill box, which makes me feel infinitely older than I actually am. You know, the type, days of the week, colour-coded, you pop them open, it's got like different times of the day for you to stash your pills in, so you know what you're taking, when you're taking. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be needing that over in Mexico, but when I bring the medications over with me, for sure. I've also got some oncology cream, an oncology lip balm for obvious reasons, in case the lips get a bit chappy. And I've got a chemo relief stick, which is something you stick up your nose if you're feeling nauseous. It helps with that. A little bit like an almond oil stick, but for nausea. I've also got some fragrance-free Aveeno and other bits and pieces as well. And the last thing on my shopping list that's going in the bag with me to Mexico is a lavalier microphone. I think I pronounced that correctly, but knowing me, who knows? It's basically a lapel mic that works with a Bluetooth connector. You put said connector up the backside of your phone and it connects to the little microphone which you clip on. It's basically just to make recording and logging and all of that stuff much easier, so I'm not having to take a bunch of equipment with me and I can be a bit more mobile. If I'm out on the rooftop deck or wherever, I can be on the move and recording with a lot more ease. So there you go, that's some of the stuff that I'll be taking with me on my trip to Mexico. So here we are, the home stretch. Single digits, single bloody digits. I've got 6 days to go until I end up on a plane and head over to Mexico. And it's surreal. There is probably a much better word, but surreal feels apt. In a couple of days, that feeling might mutate and I might be describing it as something else. But at the 6 days to go mark, it's surreal, it's strange, because this whole thing since deciding to do it has been omnipresent. It's kind of just been lingering in the sky above me in the distance. I know it's there, I know it's coming, I know I'm heading towards it actively, but now it's just about here. And it feels like it's taken a very long time to get here, but in the last couple of weeks, it also feels like I've been galloping towards it. But yeah, it's just about around the corner at this point, and it is kind of surreal for all of those reasons and more. Doing things for the last time before I go has been creeping in my mind. Simple things like driving to work on the last Monday before I go. Anyway, it's coming and I feel okay. I generally do feel okay. I think I feel okay. I'm not worried. I'm not like freaking out. I thought about the 2 week mark, the 1 week mark, I would be bricking it. But I'm not. I'm actually fairly calm. You know, it's not exactly still water, but I'm fairly calm. Again, surreal. It's just that sort of sense of this abstract thing is now got defined edges, and they're almost within touching range. The week before this, leading up to the final week, has probably been one of the best ways I could enter the home stretch. It's been the feel good uptick that I needed to kind of get my mind right after struggling with subconscious anxiety and stress and just flip flopping in terms of mood and feeling internally. This last week, before this last week, has been brilliant. Work threw me a going away party with Mexican food, beautiful Mexican food, just good vibes, good people, being very sweet and kind and caring and showing that I have got a great support network on that side alone, let alone the home front, let alone the UK front. Just a lot of people rallying behind me, especially since I went public with this and I told pretty much everyone that's connected to me that has access to shit that I put out there that this is what I'm going through. And that in itself was very humbling. Hi, now I'm actually sitting down to do this. I'm not sure where to start. A thank you is basically what this is. It's a response to the responses I've received this week, and it's to simply say thank you. If you're watching this, chances are you probably know earlier this week on Monday, I put out a fairly lengthy, uncharacteristic personal post talking about things that have happened to me and things that are going to be happening to me. And that was a pretty big deal for me to open the door that wide to so many people, but the response has been amazing across the board, from people I know and love dearly, people that I don't know, people in my periphery, people that I'm getting to know, people that I haven't heard from for years but have very fond memories of. It's just been love and support and encouragement, and it's been amazing and at times a little overwhelming, but I just wanted to make a little something to say all of that, both public and private messages of love and support and encouragement. It's all amazing, and you're amazing, and just thank you. Truly, thank you. It was difficult for me to do, to open the door, but you've proven without a shadow of a doubt it was totally worthwhile. So having people reach out and touch base and just be wonderful humans has been a great thing to have on the way towards Mexico. Also, with the work thing, we had an impromptu karaoke sesh, which was not expected, but I was all about it, even if my singing was dreadful.
Girls on film, are you recording?
Mouths on film.
Girls on film.
And then just a couple of days ago, we went back to BD Riley's in Austin for the last game of the season, and more significantly, the last game of Jurgen Klopp's tenure, which I'm not going to dive into because I could do a whole episode on that, why that man means so much to me, what he's done over the last few years, and just what a fantastic human being he is. So maybe we'll do that one day, but right now is not the time to do that. But it was a bittersweet event. It was a fond farewell to a fantastic man, a fantastic manager, but an even better human being. And I went through a catalogue of emotions last week with that. Trivial as it might be to some, it means a great deal to a great amount of people. And I include myself very much in that. So getting to say goodbye to Jurgen, as it were, with a bunch of fellow Reds in a place that I feel very happy at, was all part of the big uptick heading into the home stretch.
Up with him and I feel fine.
So surreal, but I'm feeling good. I feel like I am entering this stage of my life in the best possible way. Yeah, I might not be looking the best, I have cut my hair again, kind of going down in stages. It's not too bad, actually. It's not too bad. I'm preparing myself for the baldness that's on the horizon, for the fact that I'm going to look like an egg at some point with glasses on. I wish that the baldness meant that I had some kind of Jason Statham-esque ruggedness, but the truth is I'm probably going to end up looking more like Greg Wallace is going on his holidays. That's the season of my life that I'll be in once the baldness comes to full fruition, but oddly enough, I'm at peace with that. I mean, I don't really want to be Greg Wallace going on his holidays, but that's just where I am at this time, or it's where I will be. And oddly enough, I'm alright with that. Well, here I am. I have, as you can probably tell from the airport ambience, I have 0 days left. I've got about 3 hours left at the time of recording this, although that means nothing to you listening to this whenever you get to listen to this. Days have run out. I am officially on the very precipice of getting there, and in a flux of emotions the last few days. I had hoped to actually sit down and record something prior to this, but time has not worked out that way for various issues and so many last minute things needing to be done and so much happening in quick succession. This is the first time I've been able to sit down in days to actually catch my breath, as it were, and do one of these. I honestly don't know what the point of this is, because I don't know what I'm saying. I am just aimlessly wandering around the airport at the minute because I've got about 3 hours to kill, and I don't really want to sit down and do this in front of a bunch of people. At least being on the hoof makes it look like I'm doing a video call somewhere. I don't know. Flux of emotions. I feel fine about going. That has not been an issue for really most of my journey on the way to Puebla, but people missing home, saying goodbye to my wife, it's reminiscent of when we were building up our relationship, when I would come here to visit, when I would have to leave. Just being in airports isn't like the best thing ever anyway, but there is like emotional history to that. It's an emotional place when you think about it. People saying goodbye, people greeting people they haven't maybe seen for a long time, changes and transitions. It's something. I'm trying also not to get in people's way, and that's difficult when you're just wandering aimlessly. Anyway, I feel fine about going. Don't have any qualms about that. It's saying goodbye to people and things and being away from comforts and the familiar and the known and all of that stuff. I had a moment before we left the house to come down to the hotel we were staying at last night, where I was in the house by myself and it was eerily quiet, and then I had myself a little cry because I'm like, this like, as much as I don't feel at home really to a true earnest extent in this country and within this state, I feel at home with the people that are there, and it's the people, not the place, that makes somewhere truly. And so saying goodbye, even just on a temporary basis, was difficult. It kind of hit me hard in the feels, but this is the best thing for me. I know that, and I think that's why I'm at peace with it. I think that's why it's been a factor of ease, because I know I'm going for the right reasons, and I know that when I come back there's work to do and it's going to be difficult in its own sense, but it's leaving me in a better position than I would be without being able to do this. So state of flux with emotions, gratitude, appreciation, twinge of melancholy, bit of apprehension, sure, although I am at ease for the most part. There is an undercurrent of apprehension, but just feeling a lot of things. But more than anything really, I'm just feeling ready to go, and this is it. Here we go. As always, Thank you for listening. Look after yourselves, look after each other, and until next time, keep it dimed out.